Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of India Habitat Center and Mr. Benoy K Behl. Today's talk and film screening is the fourth of the monthly series, Glimpses of Culture. The speaker, Benoy K Behl, is a filmmaker, art historian, and photographer who is known for his tireless and prolific output of work over the past 45 years. For many years, the Limca Book of Records has been giving him the record for being the most traveled art historian and photographer. Besides traveling repeatedly around the world, he has been well known for having traveled to all corners of India multiple times to document art and culture. For his projects, he has often traveled for many months at a time, sleeping only one night at one place and waking up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. to keep on the move. The result is an unprecedented archive of Indian culture and art, which you may see reflected in his very popular book in 2 volumes entitled The Art of India. Mr. Behl has taken over 53,000 photographs of Asian monuments and art heritage and made 145 documentaries which are regularly screened at major cultural institutions around the world. His photographic exhibitions have been warmly received in 74 countries. He is the person who, for the first time, photographed the 5th century paintings of Ajanta in their true colors and details. He has also painstakingly digitally restored the ancient paintings of India and brought rarely seen art to light. His work has also been preserved for posterity in the Arctic World Archive in Norway. Mr. Behl is known for having photographed the Buddhist heritage of the world across 20 countries. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Benoy K Behl speaks to us this evening and shows his film, Ancient Land of Tripura. He will be happy to answer your questions after the screening and talk, so please kindly put your questions in the chat box after the film. Thank you. Over to Mr. Behl now.
Thank you very much, Sujata. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies. It is a great pleasure to be with all of you again to share some more aspects of India's culture and art. My many thanks to the India Habitat Center for this opportunity yet again to be sharing these glimpses of culture. My many thanks to Doordarshan, who have, in a most unusual way, sponsored my making of so many films, including the one you will see today, which are seriously made films with deep research. In this era of popularity where TV channels have commercial ratings and viewings in mind, it is in fact quite wonderful of this public service broadcaster to have encouraged me in my work and have sponsored so many films of mine over the years. Ladies and gentlemen, India is a vast country, so much so that much of it is often not very well known to most people. For instance, how many know that the most beautiful continuing tradition of bhakti, of dances of the Rasa Leela are to be found continuing in the state of Manipur. How many know that one of the very oldest continuing dance forms of the world is in Manipur, the Lai Haroba? And best of all, that that state preserves the social contract between dances and the community, the audience. It is one of those rare places left in India where the dances are performed in temples or in sacred mandapas which are made for the purpose. Not just showpieces which are put up on stage for people to come and see and to clap. They still worship the dancers and worship the dance form in that state. Just like Manipur, how many know that the largest rock cut reliefs of Lord Shiva are to be found in Tripura? How many know about the Pilak Stupa in Tripura, which is one of the early stupas and has wonderful Vajrayana themes and a deep connection, beginning with the Nalanda University of Eastern India and going across to the Paharpur Stupa in Bangladesh and going north to the Rangritse Monastery in a very remote part of Kinnaur, Trans-Himalayan part of Kinnaur called Charang, and so much else. So ladies and gentlemen, I take pleasure in showing you today a film which is being screened for the first time, a film on the ancient land of Tripura. So Shant, I would request you to please run the film. Thank you very much.
Over the past 31 years, I've had the joy of traveling repeatedly to many corners of this vast subcontinent that is India. It is amazing to see how landscapes, culture, food, music, dances, and even languages change every few hundred kilometers that you drive. You see the highest mountains of the world, great seas, bountiful rivers, and best of all, a people whose thoughts and heritage go back a few thousand years. Join us on an enthralling journey. I am traveling again across the whole of India to bring you spectacular India. In the far east of India is the land of Tripura. It is a land of verdant hills, lush greenery, and cultural traditions which are rooted in a long history. Tripura was one of the last great Hindu kingdoms of India. Behind me is the Ujjayanta Palace, which was built in 1901 by the Maharaja. This imposing building is made in the Saracenic style of architecture, and it brings alive the splendor of those times. Traveling through the verdant land of Tripura is taking a journey into a time when there were thick forests everywhere. A sense of the eternal still pervades the life of the people, and images of their devotion are still to be seen everywhere. Lord Shiva and Durga have always had a very special place in the heart of Indians. Many holy sites devoted to them are very well known. However, what is not well known is that the state of Tripura has some of the greatest sites of their devotion. We are at Unnakoti, which literally means one less than 10 million. Apparently, this was supposed to be a land of so many deities in the past. We are 178 kilometers, mainly due north from Agartala. It's a fascinating site with the largest Shiva rock-cut reliefs in all of India. It is a particular pleasure for me to come here today, as I came here for the first time 35 years ago. This remote and magnificent site in the hills of North Tripura is one of the greatest sites of religious art in India. These impressive sculptures were made in the 11th or 12th century, towards the end of the reign of the Palas. The central Shiva face is known as the Unnakotishvara Kal Bhairav. Including the headdress, it is over 30 feet high. But the most enchanting part of this site is its magical setting in the middle of the thick forest. We are dwarfed by these massive reliefs. For indeed, that is the purpose, to convey the awesome majesty of the spirit, which is far greater than the forms of the world around us. Unnakoti also has massive rock-cut depictions of Durga and of other deities. In this enchanted place, the colossal sculptures blend with the natural beauty of the verdant site. Mukhalingas and beautiful sculptures of many other divinities are also found at Unnakoti. These indicate the existence of earlier temples here prior to the rock-cut reliefs. Along with Hinduism, Tripura was also an important center of Buddhism. Evidence of Buddhism has been found dating from the first decade of the 6th century onwards. Tantric Buddhism flourished here from the 8th century onwards. These are the remains of the Pilak Stupa, located in a very remote part of South Tripura. The exquisite relief on the stupa, on the base of the stupa, represents the Vajrayana school of Buddhism, which was prevalent in Pala times when it was made. The Vajra of the Vajrayana school is Lord Indra's Vajra, the thunderbolt, for it was believed that the logic of the school of Buddhism was as striking and as clear as a thunderbolt. It was also believed to be as indestructible as a diamond. The Vajrayana form of Buddhism developed in eastern India, mainly at the universities of Nalanda and Vikramshila. In fact, the earliest representations we have of relief made along the base in this fashion is also found at the site of Nalanda. These reliefs are also similar to those found in the base of the Paharpur Stupa in Bangladesh. We also find Pala period reliefs carved in wood like this at the Charang monastery in Kinnaur. This stupa is of great value in the study of Buddhism in the east of India. These reliefs are among the earliest art found in sites of the Vajrayana school of Buddhism. It was from eastern India that this form of Buddhism spread to Myanmar, Nepal, Tibet and Indonesia. Bronze sculptures have been found in the area around Pilak. These are of a very high artistic quality and are made in the style of the Pala period. It is believed that Pilak may have many more treasures to offer, and excavations are being carried out in the area. In ancient and early medieval times, the worship of Shiva and Shakti was widespread all over the northeast. "28 kilometers from Agartala, near the Bangladesh border, is the Kamla Sagar Kali temple. This was built in the late 15th century by Maharaja Dhanya Manikya. It has a very early image of Mahishasur Mardini with Shiva made in the base. It is visited by a large number of devotees from Tripura and from other states. The temple of Tripureshwari or Tripura Sundari is in the town of Udaipur, about 56 kilometers south of Agartala. She is a form of Durga and is the most revered deity of Tripura. In fact, the state is named after her. Legend has it that King Dhanya Manikya, who ruled Tripura in the end of the 15th century, had a revelation one night in a dream. In the dream, he was told to install the image of Tripura Sundari in a temple which stood on a hilltop near the town of Udaipur. That is how the Tripura Sundari temple came into being in the year 1501. It is now over 500 years old. This is the most important temple in Tripura. On an average, more than 2,000 worshippers come here each day. The temple has a square-type sanctum made in the style of a typical Bengali hut with a conical roof. On the eastern side of the temple, King Dhanya Manikya built a pond which is today home to a large number of tortoises. Tripura Sundari means beauty of the three worlds. She is also called Shodashi, vermilion-hued, Lalita, or playful one, and Raja Rajeshwari, or Queen of Queens. In Hindu mythology, Lord Vishnu had cut the body of Parvati in the form of Sati into 51 pieces with his Sudarshan chakra. These pieces fell in different places throughout the country. These places came to be deeply revered and are known as Peethasthans. It is said that the right foot of Sati fell here in Matabari. Kashmiri Shaivites have a collection of 5 ancient hymns that were composed in praise of Tripura Sundari. The deity Tripura Sundari combines in her being Kali's determination, Parvati's charm, and Durga's grace. The temple is also known as Kurma Peeth because the shape of the temple appears like that of the kurma or tortoise. Inside the temple, the image of Kali is made of reddish-black kasti stone. The deity Kali is the embodiment of eternal energy. It is this energy with which we must battle the demons of our ignorance. In Indian thought, the only evil is our lack of true knowledge, our confusion. We remain caught in the spell of Maya or Mithya, the illusions of the world of forms around us. Thus, we are blinded to the truth. Deities are the personifications of fine qualities within us. We look upon them, we meditate upon them to awaken those qualities within us. These qualities grow within until finally we become the deity. Kali personifies the boundless energy we can have, energy which we can use to dispel our ignorance and confusion. Kali is visualized as a supreme mistress of the universe. In union with Shiva, who is said to be her spouse, she creates and destroys the world. This is the destruction of the Maya or Mithya in which we remain constantly caught. In her role as ruler of the world and object of meditation, her appearance takes on a more benign dimension. She is described as young and beautiful, has a gentle smile, and makes gestures with her 2 right hands to dispel our fears. These gentler features present Kali's divine wrath as a path towards salvation. She dispels all fears of the devotee. Kali is the final symbol of triumph over the illusion of life and death. Benuvan Vihar is a Buddhist temple right in the heart of Agartala city. It has fine images of the Buddha inside. The Chaturdas Devta temple, or the temple of 14 deities, is in Old Agartala, 6 kilometers from present Agartala. We see here also the ruins of the old royal palace. This is the Malanch Nivas, which used to be the summer palace of the Maharaja of Tripura. The great Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore spent much time here. He is believed to have written many of his works here. The temple of Bhuvaneshwari is 55 kilometers south of Agartala. It is of the 17th century. The temple is also known because it features as the backdrop for a novel and for a play written by the Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore. It was made in the rule of Maharaja Govinda Manikya. Not very far from the Tripura Sundari temple in Udaipur is the beautiful Gunavati group of temples. These were made in the 17th century. A long tradition of living with nature is reflected in the beautiful handicrafts of Tripura. These are made lovingly out of the bounty of nature available in the thick forests of the state. The people of Tripura make the most exquisite things out of cane, such as these. I remember 35 years ago, I had picked up some small chairs and moodas, pumpkin-shaped moodas, to sit upon in Tripura. That was 35 years ago. And they are still as strong and exquisite looking as ever. In fact, every time they get a coat of polish, they look new. Sometimes I think that objects made out of cane are the most artistic.
Clarissa, come and see this. What? See this basket? Beautifully made, no? See, can you see how people make it with the hand, huh? Hand. Okay.
The land of Tripura is a crucible of early Indian culture which continues till today. A journey through this verdant land is a great reminder of the richness and glory of India in ancient times.
It was such a pleasure to visit again the visuals of Tripura that I first saw in 1974. It was then a very remote place. The capital, Agartala, had no rail connection and no direct connection by road to the main chunk of India. The only real connection used to be the subsidized Indian Airlines flight between Agartala and Calcutta, which during the summer used to be known as the Pineapple Express, because people used to each carry the beautiful, the very sweet, good pineapples of Tripura. And in other seasons, it was known as the Jackfruit Express, because there was so much jackfruit growing wild in Tripura at that time. There were, hundreds of thousands of jackfruit weighing down the boughs of trees everywhere. And of course, the lush green trees and the biodiversity, the insect life in particular was very rich at that time. Of course, by the time I have been visiting Tripura again in more recent years, as with everywhere else, that has been changing. But it is still a very beautiful place with very fine people. And ladies and gentlemen, the only evil in Indian thought is ignorance. And the deities, and Kali in particular, is the personification of the boundless energy that is within us, with which we can combat our ignorance. Such is the spirit, such is the faith, such is the spirit, such is the energy with which we meet, with which we walk upon the philosophic path to dispel our ignorance. The amazing thing about India everywhere is that besides material things and material success, everywhere in India, people have been preoccupied with the eternal quest. What is beyond the material world, to look for the peace that can be found within us, the joy and the peace which can be found within us. And that has led in the largest number of rock cut reliefs, stupas, temples, and the thoughts of people have always been to the divine. In fact, it is not just kings, it is the common people of India who were responsible for in ancient times, it was the common people in India who were responsible for the patronage of all stupas and temples. So the amazing thing is that you have these thousands of inscriptions, donative inscriptions across India, where you find that people from all rungs of society have contributed their own little parts towards the making of the ancient monuments of India. But in its essence, it is all this preoccupation of all the people with the philosophic path, with the path of kindness and compassion, which marks India. I would at this stage be very happy to answer questions, and I request Sujata to please, she has access to the chat box, to please let me have any questions which there might be. Thank you.
Well, till we wait for the questions to come in, I'll just read a few comments, and then we'll go on to questions if there are any. Dipankar Mukhopadhyay saying, what an experience, being so close to Calcutta yet never went there. Was very happy to see this documentary, being able to fill the void in the evening of my life.
Thank you so much. So kind of you to be so warm and appreciative. Very kind of you. Thank you.
Cheng Sochiat saying, so precious and very knowledgeable presentation, so amazing.
Thank you so much. As ever, you are very kind.
Debaduti Banerjee saying, extremely well made documentary. I have been to Mayer Mari, Tripura Sundari Temple, Kamala Sundari Temple, popularly known as Koshba Kalibari, Koshba railway station of Bangladesh on the other side, and 14 Devta Temple years back in 1995.
I'm so glad to hear that. These are places that not many people have gone to, and they are indeed lovely places to go to. Thank you.
Suresh Goel, our old friend, saying, Dear Benoy, great film. I'm looking at the immense research that you have done for this documentary. I was not aware of the connection between Kashmiri Shaivism and Tripureshwari or Sati and Tripura. Congratulations on an excellent work.
Thank you so much, Suresh. Yes, yes. There are the wonderful thing is that in India, uh, all what shall we say, schools in philosophy or the philosophic paths that develop tended to be very quickly shared across the whole country. As a matter of fact, even the Shaivism of Tamil Nadu was deeply influenced and brought by the Kashmiris. So when you travel in India, you are struck by this wonderful, deeply shared culture right across the subcontinent. Thank you.
We have Mr. Adarsh K. Mishra, Director SVCC from Sao Paulo, saying, Namaskar, Shri Benoy K Behl ji. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to watch screening of the film. Congratulations and my best wishes to you and India Habitat Center.
Thank you so much for your kind response. Thank you.
Give me a minute. I'm just scrolling down to see if there's anything else that's coming. Akhilesh Mishra ji saying, as always, a well-researched and fascinating presentation by Behl ji.
Thank you so much. Very kind of you.
Thanks a lot for educating us about extremely rich and diverse cultural heritage of Tripura. Warm regards, Akhilesh Mishra and Riti.
Thank you so much. You are very kind.
We have a question.
I do wish that information about the various states of India, perhaps audiovisual information, perhaps even some of these films, could reach students in India, in all parts of the country. In fact, it would really help people in every corner of the country to see similarities and to warmly appreciate the people of the whole country. And this is knowledge which I hope can be disseminated one day. Thank you.
Alexandra Matik, I hope I've pronounced it right. Oops, that just went by. Greetings from Chicago, and what a wonderful way to begin the day. I agree, so close to Calcutta, yet unknown to me. Looking forward to visiting next time. Sorry, it goes. Many thanks to you, Behelji, and to Habitat Center.
I'm sure you will particularly enjoy the visit to Unakoti in the middle of the deep forest. There is this, in early times, there was this appreciation of nature, whether it is at Ajanta, whether it is at Pitalkhora, whether it is at Unakoti and so many other places. I find that the nature around the site, the nature when you go to the site is in many ways as beautiful, much more beautiful than the sight of the art. Or perhaps I should say it all blends so beautifully, but whether it's Bhimbetka for that matter, it is the glory of nature is so well understood by early man. And I'm sure that you will enjoy that so much when you visit Unakoti. Thank you.
Sorry, yeah. We have a question from Sushmita Jha asking any documentation on why these rock cut reliefs were made rather than building Shiva temples.
Well, in that period of time and previous to that period of time, there was a great tradition of rock cut temples and rock cut sculpture. And in fact, just a little before this time, they began a tradition of brihad or great large images. So I see it as a natural part of the of that. And this is something which is seen we've seen in the second part of the first millennium. You see it first in Maharashtra. You see it in the caves, in the Buddhist caves of Maharashtra. You see it at Elephanta. You see the Brihad figures later coming up through the hands of the Kashmiri artists in the region of Ladakh. And then you see Brihad images in Afghanistan, such as the Bamiyan Buddha, which was unfortunately destroyed. But these Brihad images to help us realize the magnificence, to help us realize the awesome and powerful quality of the spirit within us, were being represented a great deal during this period of the second half of the first millennium. And I must say that it is so important to recognize that that we are so small as compared to what is within us. As ephemeral people, we are just passing shadows. But the qualities within us, the qualities of the unity of us with all that there is around us, the whole of Prakriti, the oneness which we have with the whole of creation, that the greatness within which connects us to all that there is so much greater than the ephemeral personality which remains so caught up with the ephemeral problems of the day-to-day world. So we lose some of these problems and constant darting about of the mind when we are before these great figures. Thank you very much.
We have a question coming in from Dr. D.K. Mazumdar. Sir, could you find any relation between the stupa in Tripura and the stupa in Paharpur, Bangladesh?
Yes, the kind of sculpture which we see in the base of the stupa. I may have shown one image of the sculpture from the base of the Paharpur stupa also. Yes, the style of the making of all this, the style of the brick stupas, there is a great deal of connection. As a matter of fact, it is remarkable to see the interconnectedness of it all. You see the stupa, the temple, there's one temple at Nalanda, which reflects these Vajrayana images. I believe I may have shown an image of that also when I was showing the Pilak Stupa. And Paharpur on the other side, the Rangritse monastery, the upper part of Kinnaur on the other side. At almost any given point of time in Indian history, the spread and the reach of culture is so complete. It's wonderful to see. And yes, the Paharpur Stupa is a great place to visit. The Buddhist heritage of Bangladesh is quite wonderful. And Sujata and I have had the joy of visiting these Buddhist sites in Bangladesh. And we've also had the joy of seeing that the government of Bangladesh looks after these Buddhist sites extremely well. They're very well preserved. There are gardens which are made there. There are flowers which are grown. And in fact, the National Museum of Bangladesh also preserves large number of beautiful sculptural pieces of the Buddhist and Hindu tradition. And there are also the site museums near the Paharpur site and the other Buddhist sites of Bangladesh. Thank you very much.
Alexandra Matic, I hope I have the pronunciation right. Forgive me if I don't. Do they also date from around the time of the later Jain carvings by Gwalior Fort?
I have documented the Jain carvings at the bottom of the hill of the Gwalior Fort, but I do not exactly remember the period of time. However, from the brahad or large nature of them, I would expect them to be of a similar period. Thank you very much. At this point, I could also mention to you that there is much similarity in Jaina, Buddhist, and Hindu representations. For instance, if you were to go to the extreme southern corner of India and near Kanyakumari, if you were to see the rock-cut Jaina reliefs there, you find that they are extremely similar in style and manner of iconography to the representations 1 or 2 centuries later made by Kashmiri artists in the Buddhist monasteries of Ladakh and other places. So the connections are deep across these faiths. There were no divisions between the art of the different faiths in early times in India. Thank you.
I think that's more or less, unless anybody has any questions which they quickly want to put into the chat box. There's nothing else that I can see. Right. So our next event is a talk called The Ancient Murals of India. This would be on the 18th of December at 6 p.m. This is Mr. Behl's most popular talk, so you might just like to mark it in your calendar right away. On behalf of India Habitat Center and Benoy K Behl, I would like to thank you so much for being with us tonight. Take good care and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Sushant, for the excellent screening, and my thanks again to the India Habitat Center.